It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
You want something, go get it. Period.
You gotta keep moving, let's keep moving, let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left.
This is where we have been, this is how we got here, this is who we are.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You're listening to the Hustle Indie Show, sponsored by FS Houses, where we seek out some of Indie's most hustling people and places to learn about what they do, how they got started, and where they're going. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to episode number 4, I believe.
Yes, we're already on
episode number 4. It's crazy. Yeah, but we are so excited to be with you all this morning. We've got some awesome guests again. I am Brendan Helm, your host. I'm joined today by the wonderful Ian DeFelice.
Thank you for having me once again, Brendan.
Yes, it is always a joy. How's your day been?
It's been great, actually. It's been really good. Been really getting into some more photography and marketing stuff with FS Houses, who is our sponsor of today's show. FS Houses is Indianapolis-based real estate company. They specialize in anything from traditional real estate sales all the way to investments to property management. They are also branching out into a couple different things, including now marketing for not just other real estate companies, but small businesses as well. Whether that's setting up a website or whether that's just taking photos, making a video, FS Houses now does that as well. And you can find them at fshouses.com. Or if you want to do marketing, it is the fshouses.com/marketing tab. Thank you so much, FS Houses, for sponsoring another awesome podcast.
Yes, again, thank you, FS Houses.
I know it's been a long day.
Well, it has been quite the day. I mean, I've been with you for the majority of it.
Yeah, we watched our podcast live, and that's probably the most satisfying feeling, actually, seeing it all come to fruition. I personally just sit in on these podcasts and talk, and he does all the work, and it's amazing to watch that happen.
Yeah,
so.
it's quite a bit of work behind the scenes that you guys don't see, but it is all worth it. It's so cool to see the finished product come together and share it with the world. That's what this is all about, highlighting some awesome people in an awesome place.
I know. Love Indianapolis and love all the people here so far.
Speaking of the people, we've got an awesome guest with us today. We have Brandon Mott with us, who is an executive director of an awesome company, entrepreneur, leader, all about Indy, and we are super excited to learn more about him, his story, and what he's got going on here in Indianapolis. So welcome, Brandon.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it is a pleasure
Thanks for being here.
Have you.
All right, so let's just jump right in. We start out with all our guests asking kind of a general question, just to lead it all in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you came from. Just kind of give us the general story of Brandon, who you are, and what you do.
Well, sure. I came from here.
Okay.
So I grew up in Indianapolis. My family is from Indianapolis. I went to Decatur Central High School out on the southwest side.
Yeah.
After high school, went on and studied. I actually studied Christian ministry in Anderson University, and then moved back to the city after that. And a group of friends and I really just moved into the city, we really wanted to exercise our faith in a way that we felt was practical, and we wanted to be good neighbors. Like we grew up hearing that loving your neighbor and being good neighbors was what life is all about, and so we tried to figure out how we could do that practically. And so we moved into the neighborhood that is now very well known as Bates Hendricks. Back when we moved in 2007. Really, not many people had heard of a Bates Hendricks or what that was. But the neighborhood association was already established then. It just, wasn't as quite as prolific as it is now. But we began just doing little things. We, at the time, when we kind of launched our not-for-profit, we were all volunteers in that aspect, and we were all just working part-time jobs doing other things. I actually worked as a plumber for a couple years. We did construction jobs on the side here and there, and we were really just making our living kind of doing that stuff part-time. And we focused on only doing that, our money jobs, if you will, part-time, so that we could focus on growing the not-for-profit. Sure. And we actually ran the not-for-profit entirely volunteer-based from when we started in 2007. In 2010, we became an actual 501c3.
Wow.
And then it wasn't until 2016 that we had our first paid staff position.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of years there where we were just doing it on the side, and we really didn't have any grandiose plan. It wasn't until in 2012 is when we bought our current building. Our building, in fact, was in 2011 was actually a strip club.
Wow.
And when we were working with the neighborhood association, the neighborhood association had been working to get them shut down because IMPD had done a crime map on the southeast side, and that corner was a pretty heavy epicenter for crime. And so the neighborhood association had been trying to get them shut down so that we could, eliminate that crime. And so we joined in with them. We actually went to court one day. This is kind of a funny story. It's kind of embarrassing, I guess, but we went to court with our friends and neighbors from the association, and I remember the clerk saying, are there any remonstrators present? Because we were remonstrating against them renewing their liquor license. And I had never heard the word remonstrate. I had no idea what it meant. And my buddy Derek and I are sitting there, and we look at each other and we're like, what is that? What is that? I mean, we had no clue, but we saw our neighbors stand up and we were like, oh, that's us. Yeah. So we so it's pretty funny. But anyway, long story short, we had not planned on really jumping into this endeavor when we did. Again, we were all volunteer. We were working on site. We were just neighbors, right? Yeah. We had kind of a dream to do a community center someday, but we had just become a not-for-profit. We were very poorly, hardly at all funded. I mean, we just had random people giving to us here and there. But the opportunity presented itself, and we had actually surveyed the entire neighborhood that year, and it was unanimous that everyone thought, man, a small community center in the neighborhood would be awesome. And so we went for it. We had a big partner, Church at the Crossing up on the north side is one of our biggest partners, and they had come alongside and helped us with some funding, and in a huge way. And so again, we just jumped in 2012 in February. We bought the building, and it took us 2.5 years with primarily volunteer labor.
Wow. To
gut and renovate this building.
A long time.
It was forever.
That is a long time.
And it was a lot of work. I mean, we gutted it all out. Again, volunteers. So imagine we're all working our jobs on the side to, survive. And then, 1 day, 2 days, maybe 3 at the most days a week, we're going over there and trying to figure it out. It took us forever to get permits because, again, we don't do that, and so we were trying to make connections and whatnot. So anyway, but one of the things that really switched for us is that when we were opening the community center, we wanted the community center to be self-sustaining. We didn't want to have to always be fundraising for everything and always be trying to, just create this thing that just needed all this extra money. And so our goal from the beginning, and it's funny because I didn't really realize that I was an entrepreneur until I'd already been doing it for like 3 years. But it really wasn't until my 30s that I realized that is what I was doing. But our goal from the beginning was to figure out a way that the community center itself could generate revenue while also serving the community. So to do both. So we opened in 2014, just opened the community center. And we were hosting people, again, still volunteer. We would take shifts being open so that we could just have neighbors in, and we would host community meals. And we started an after school program right away. But then again, as part of that revenue generating to help support the mission, we thought a coffee shop would be a good idea. And so we had actually way back in 2009, when Calvin Fletcher's had first opened, we had partnered with Doug and Judy Lissy and Jeff, and we had helped them do some remodel on their space and help them get open, and we're good friends with them. And so I actually went to Jeff and said, hey man, we think this would be a cool idea to kind of blend this business with our mission, and he supported us from the beginning. He was all about it. He helped us get set up, helped us get rolling, helped us kind of design our space, and Jeff's just an awesome guy. If you guys know him, you already know that. But so then literally, there was a girl that was part of the church at Church at the Crossing, who had shown some interest in our coffee shop endeavor. And so I met with her, literally this was in May of 16. And I said, hey, would you be interested in doing this with us? Would you want to run the coffee shop kind of arm of our not-for-profit? And she was very intrigued. And then in June, she said yes. And then literally by November, we were open.
Wow.
And so it was just one of those things where we thought it was the right direction to go. And so we just went for it. I think we were talking about that maybe before we started recording. You just got to jump in, and sometimes you just got to go.
Exactly.
So we started the coffee shop in 16, and then in 17, our neighborhood laundromat closed, and this was a huge detriment to a lot of our neighbors, and so we thought that we were like, man, well, what can we do to help that? And so, we just said, well, we'll just do something about it, I guess. And so there was a small corner of our main community room that was kind of a bit secluded already. So, we literally just walled it off and put in 3 washers and 4 dryers and called it a laundromat. And it's more of a community service. It does generate a little bit of revenue,
Right.
but it's more so for the community.
Yeah.
And then we grew our after school program, and we just continued to partner with the neighborhood association and do more. And I don't know exactly where you guys want to go from there, but that's kind of where we are today. That's
Awesome.
how I got here. It just came down. And so our mission currently is to be a leader and catalyst in fostering a healthy mixed income community.
Gotcha.
As you might know, Bates Hendricks is very mixed income. We have things all over the map in our community. And so that, our hope is to be a bridge between neighbors. Most of our staff live in the neighborhood. I live 2 blocks
awesome.
from the community center.
Cool.
And so that's a big kind of proponent of our mission and of our organization is that kind of by the community for the community aspect.
So I have a lot of questions that I actually want to ask, but I want to start, I guess, kind of more towards the beginning and kind of keep it in line. So starting out, you said you didn't really realize this is what you really wanted to do, and you started all the way back in like 2009-ish, around that time. What were you doing before you started this? Was there like a full-time job that you hadn't planned, or like that you had in mind, like this is really what I wanted to do and this happened, or is this kind of always the plan?
Well, like I said, I studied ministry in college, and so my plan was to go into ministry. And I've worked in churches throughout the years. In fact, I still work part-time at a church down on the south side called Meridian Church of God. It's actually the church I grew up at.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I go there. I went there as a kid. My parents go there. My grandmother still goes there.
Cool.
And so so that's a really fun kind of just aspect of my life, I guess. But it really just started out with this heart for people and heart for community. And no, there wasn't like a grand plan. Like I would say there still isn't really.
Yeah.
Our one of the things that we were really adamant about when we moved into the community is that we wanted to be good listeners. There's a lot of kind of savior complex out there. People, move into a space and they want to like save the space from themselves. And it's and you don't really even know what the community needs. You don't really know what they're all about. And we didn't want to be like that. We kind of have a saying from our faith background is that there's only one Savior, and I'm not him. And so I'm not here to save anybody. I'm here to be a good listener, to be a good community member. And we learned just as much and maybe more about how to be good neighbors from our neighbors than we've probably taught. And so that's how it happened. It happened by being good listeners. You know, it happened by, you know, being present, being involved.
Which definitely helps by living in that neighborhood as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you know, another thing that helps is longevity. You know, I tell community members this a lot, you know, once you're around for a long time, then you can really start to make an impact. You can, you know, having a place where you are, it's your place, you know, you've been there, you know it. And we have a lot of neighbors who have been there a lot longer than me. And so I draw on their wisdom. I draw on their knowledge. In fact, one of our baristas who works at our shop, his name's Larry. He grew up in the community. And so I go to him with questions all the time about this or that or whatnot, because that longevity just gives you a deeper understanding about situations or circumstances or whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like so. What you've done is you have taken your passion and your heart for servanthood and developed it into a way that serves the community around you in a way that is efficient and beneficial for the people that are in the community instead of beneficial for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, I see it as a both and, right? Like I am we, because I live there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you try to work together with folks instead of competing, you know, you can have this, and it's really tricky because not everybody likes everybody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And people are different. And, you know, we've come across this challenge a lot with some of our newer neighbors and some of our older neighbors. You know, some of our long-term neighbors and some of our newer neighbors don't get along super well.
Yeah.
And just some other factors too. But you know, we try to really live out this like for the community or like for neighbors by neighbors. And I think you're right. I think something that I say somewhat regularly is that community is not a zero-sum game. Like, because I'm doing well doesn't mean you can't do well.
Exactly.
And it can be tricky, especially when you introduce like entrepreneurship into that or anything you're trying to market.
Yeah.
That can be tricky. But
yeah. What are some ways that you guys keep your vision rooted in that servanthood? Like, how do you guys keep your model focused on that to avoid losing sight of that?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be difficult. I think that one of the ways is that we are really focused on hiring folks from the community, and that makes a big difference. The other way is that we stay involved in the community. And another big way is just making sure that we engage neighbors who are different than us, you know, across the board.
Yeah.
Asking questions of people who don't think like us, even hiring people who don't think like me. It is really crucial. People who don't look like me, it is really important. And we try to translate everything into, like, we try our best to kind of feed all of our decision making through the lens of our mission. Like one of the things about our coffee shop is that our small coffee is only $1.
Really?
Yeah. So I tell people this all the time. We serve the best $1 cup of coffee in the state,
better than McDonald's,
probably the nation, possibly the world. I don't know. Haven't been everywhere, but it's pretty doggone good. It's roasted right down the street at Calvin Fletcher's by Jeff.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's real good. And it's pretty small. It's only a 10-ounce cup. But we did that because we wanted to make sure that our space was accessible to anybody. You know, we wanted anybody to be able to come in. Yeah, like you can't even go get like garbage coffee at Speedway.
Yeah.
No offense, Speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah, their coffee has gotten better over the years, actually.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's not high quality, locally roasted.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
You know, you can't even get that for $1 anywhere.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that that what we're doing is accessible to all of our neighbors. And then we also serve, you know, really quality, you know, well-crafted, you know, high-end drinks to cater to people who really like that. And so we just try and be mindful and intentional about filtering all of our decision making
Yeah.
through that lens.
It's really
And
cool to
it's
see.
not always easy.
Oh no, yeah.
And you have to make sacrifices, you know, like I'm sure that there are things we could do that could make our coffee shop more profitable,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be welcoming to some.
Sure.
And we've had to have those conversations, and we're just not willing to do it, you know. And so it definitely costs something.
Yeah.
But it's important.
So you have a coffee shop is that something you had just recently started then?
That was 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Wow. Okay. So has that been kind of a constant growing? Has that been more popular throughout Indy? Have you seen growth in that when it comes to like revenue and overall acknowledgement from the city or from people around
absolutely.
you?
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely. It had very steadily and consistently grown until March.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But you know what? We really kind of survived through all that pretty well. We were able to make some adjustments like everybody had to.
Yeah.
To do what it was necessary to survive. But yes, it's grown steadily, and it's gotten more and more acknowledgement from other groups and from neighbors, and we have a really committed following through social media and also just in person, folks that come in and day out. And again, we had more before March.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who still aren't going to work in person, and so we still miss out on a lot of those folks. And who knows, some of those things may change forever. You know, we don't know. But yes, it has continued to grow, and we expect it to continue.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I do have like one question before we get like too much further. Can you give us like a general like definition or a general explanation of what like a non-for-profit is and what it does? Because I feel like there is a lot of misconception between what it does. You know, you see different sorts of like a charity versus a nonprofit and just different levels of it. So where do you place yourself in your organization versus another organization, either like locally based or out of state or something like that?
Well, I'm certainly no expert in the terminology
Sure.
of what makes or doesn't make a not-for-profit. I mean, for us, it's pretty simple. Like, you're either for-profit, which most businesses are,
Right.
Or you're not-for-profit, like we are, which simply means our purpose is not to generate. Like, that's not our goal. Our end goal is not to generate revenue and grow in that regard. You know, our purpose is to accomplish a mission.
Gotcha.
And nobody can nobody can, I don't want to say get rich, because you can be working out for profit and make a whole lot of money.
Yes, absolutely.
But nobody can actually, like, there can't be a profit generated. You know, once you come down to the end of your profit and loss statement, if there's extra, I'm not putting that in my pocket. It's got to go back towards the mission of the organization. So I don't really know how to technically explain that.
Yeah.
But for us, it was always about the mission. It wasn't about, it was never about growing our careers or growing this thing. It's just always been about being good neighbors, and that's what we want to continue to do.
What are some ways that you reinvest that revenue back into the mission? I know you mentioned, like, if there is at the end of that profit.
Well,
and
I
loss.
wish I could tell you that there's a pile of it every month, but there's not.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
not. Yeah, it's not-profit life is pretty tight most of the times. Yeah, it can be pretty tight. But like when things we were really, really in the swing of things before March. We were really pushing. We really had a good flow. And the way that it looked, to your question, the way that it looked for us is we just continued to hire more folks onto the team
That makes
to
sense.
to be able to do more for the community. So before COVID, we were up to 7 staff.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had, someone managing the coffee shop, someone running our after school program. We had an assistant running that was part of the after school program as well. We had 2 baristas. We had tried to launch in this fall semester of 2019. We had tried to launch a before care program with our local school, and it was okay. It didn't really work out. The need wasn't there, or the communication, I don't know, something wasn't there, but we were doing that too. And so that to me, like that has always been my goal. Whenever we're growing and increasing, is to bring more people on the team.
Yeah.
To continue to just do more and more work in the community.
So we've mentioned a lot about the not-for-profit and your entrepreneurial visions and the mission that you've been attacking for quite a while now. Are there any other like interests or hobbies or ventures that you do on the side from that?
Oh man, if we better not go too deep down this road because I have a big one that I could talk about all day. So please don't let me get too far down.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best.
So I am a very, very avid outdoorsman.
Okay.
And so I love whitetail hunting. In fact, interesting story. I got into hunting whitetails because I was compelled. This has been a while. It's in 2011. There's a lot of talk about climate change, and there's a lot of talk about the environment, and we've heard this, for a long time now. But back in 2011, I was made aware of how much the beef industry affects the climate change. And so when I first heard that, I was like, because I really like red meat. And I thought, man, if only there was something, some way that I could, negate that for myself. And so, it dawned on me that my grandpa hunted, but he passed before I was of age. And so I was like, doggone it, I would just wish I could do that. And then I could provide my own red meat for my family. And so I got into it. And, when I got my first deer, like it was over for me. like I grew up an outdoorsman, hiking and fishing and doing other things, but that just became my real passion. And then, where I went after that is hunting can kind of become an expensive hobby.
Absolutely.
Any hobby, if you really get into it, can become expensive. And so I decided, man, if only I could, kind of invest in land, and then I could fix it up and make it a good hunting spot, and then sell it for a profit. Then I could afford to
keep hunting.
I wasn't trying to make a living off of this. I just wanted to be able to afford to do what I enjoy.
Right.
And so I got into that. And so I did my first one back in 2016 and was successful at it. And then I got another one. And then I got started a partnership with this company called Whitetail Properties, which is actually the hat I'm wearing. So now I kind of do some just super fun. It's actually real estate work that I do, but it's for land and not for homes.
Sure.
And so I work with an agent through Whitetail Properties, and just am always looking for properties and doing all sorts of stuff that it's a lot of fun. And most of it I just do at home in the evenings when I'm. I don't know. Most people, I guess, are watching TV. I don't know. I'm just on my laptop looking for land.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm obsessed about.
Do you do a lot of land around just the Indy area, or do you go?
No, it's primarily south and east.
Okay. Yeah.
That I look at. The two properties that I had so far have been south. One down by New Albany, and then one in Paoli, Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so. Yeah, so that's kind of that's my, as abbreviated as I can get. That's my passion. That's what I really enjoy to do on the side. And it's funny because a lot of so I talk with our staff about this all the time. I really believe that it's important to try our best to be a fully integrated person, to try and integrate all of yourself into all of what you do. And so I joke around, especially with one of our staff members. I joke around about how hunting is part of my job, and which it kind of isn't. It really isn't. But in a way, like getting into this other process has helped me as in my business mindset, which has helped with our entrepreneurial aspects of Dat House. Has helped me, looking at maps, which I do a lot, has helped me to understand like what a GIS system is. So like I can go and I can locate parcel information, which I've needed to do a ton in our community. And so to me, it's like, I think that the best way to live is to try to integrate all of yourself into all of what you do. So I mean, that's honestly, that's what makes me an entrepreneur, right? It's like whatever I'm passionate about, I'm trying to make work. You know, I'm going for it. And so yeah, I think that, you know, we host community meals at the community center, or we did before COVID. We will again soon, I hope. But you know, I started bringing venison to our community meals, and so many of our neighbors are just, they love the nights when we have venison, you know, and so again, it's just integrated into everything we do. So yes, that is my passion. In fact, I was out in the woods this morning, which again, before we started recording, I told you guys it was a really great day, and that's one of the reasons why it was like 30 degrees this morning, super high pressure. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
I've noticed that keeping that balance, it sounds like a lot of what you're talking about is just keeping kind of more of a balanced life instead of just putting all of your eggs in one basket. So whether you're passionate about what you do or not, so you may be super passionate about, you know, the nonprofit job that you have or that organization that you run, but if that was all you did every single day, day in, day out, that could, you know, become monotonous and not have that shiny new feeling every time you go in. So being able to bring something outside that you truly enjoy is not a job, and bring that into your work it sounds like it's been kind of a huge key to your success.
Well, and so to kind of dovetail onto that, I read a book, maybe it was last year or 2 years, it doesn't matter, but it's called The Passion Paradox. I wish I could tell you who wrote it, but I don't. Brad Stolberg, maybe. Anyways, very good book, highly recommended. But he talks about having passion for your work, but also he kind of balks at this idea of balance, which I kind of agree on and kind of don't. But he talks about, you know, people who are great that you remember throughout history, right? Was I right?
Yes,
Brad
you're
Stolberg?
right.
Okay,
you're
good.
right.
Good. I've got fact checkers on me here. He talks about the people that you remember, right, that are great, truly great. You know, think of, you know, whoever, Steve Jobs or Abraham Lincoln or you know, somebody who is just world renowned.
Sure.
Their life most likely didn't have balance. They pursued something as single-mindedly as they could, and that's why you remember them.
Right.
That's why they made their mark. And he talks about it in a way, and I couldn't do it justice. So if you're interested in this idea, go read the book. Don't just listen to me. But he talks about it in a way of like seasons. Like there are seasons. Like November is one of those seasons for me. November, I will single-mindedly pursue hunting because it's time. It's time. Yeah. And you know, and there are seasons when I am like single-mindedly doing dat house work, and I'm passionate about it, and I'm driven, and I'm going, and I'm working hard. You know, there are these seasons that I think, how I would kind of compare what you said to what he says, I would say that's my balance. Gotcha. is living life in these seasons. And another important thing that I think he talks about that's been a good life lesson for me is that he talks about the line that you cross from being obsessed with something to being addicted. And I thought that was really helpful. And he talks about that, the fact that in order for you to pursue something single-mindedly and be obsessed about it and be passionate about it, whatever, but not cross over into the addiction realm, is that you've got to be able to sit down and ask yourself, are the things that I'm giving up to pursue, you know, what are the things that I'm giving up to pursue this thing? And am I willing to give these things up? Are these good things to be giving up?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, is this something that is going to benefit me to give up? And if you can sit down and honestly answer those questions, okay, these are the things I'm giving up, and yes, I'm willing to give these up, and it's good, then by all means pursue it.
Yeah.
But if you answer no, that I shouldn't be giving these things up, but then you do it anyway.
Right.
That's when you're crossing a pretty severe line.
Yeah.
And I just found that book really helpful.
Yeah, and it sounds very interesting. I kind of want to read that actually, but it also seems like it leads to, if you follow one thing completely, you throw those other things to the side, and if it doesn't work out, that could also lead to like a failure or a major failure if that doesn't work out in the end. So for you, do you feel like in your career, have you had any major failures or major setbacks that you look on and either see that as a learning experience or something that you would change, and like what was that experience for you if that is the case?
Well, I am like a classic, like capital O optimist.
Okay.
And so something that I'm super good at, for better or worse, is reframing things.
Gotcha.
So anytime something bad happens, I'm really quick to like reframe it into, oh, well, this happened, but it led me to this, which was positive, like, so, so that's part of my personality. It's really hard for me to think about failures.
Sure.
But there have certainly been struggles. There have certainly been times when I didn't appreciate, or we weren't moving in a direction that we particularly wanted. And another kind of, I have like this just library of quotes that like circle around in my brain all the time. Another quote that I tell people a lot is a problem at work is a challenge. A problem at home, now that's a problem. And so that, anytime there's a failure or a challenge, I kind of always circle it back to that. Like it's important to prioritize your family.
Yeah.
I have a wife and 2 daughters, and so they are my priority. And so, am I putting them first? Am I spending enough time with them? Am I doing that? If the answer is yes, then whatever failure is happening with work or career, well, that's just a challenge to be figured out, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my answer. To go along with that, though, I'd say, there are a lot of things I'm not good at. And something that I have tried diligently to do is, and I think we should all be striving towards this. If there's something that you want to be good at, well, then surround yourself with people who you think are doing it better than you.
Yep.
And I have been so fortunate, so blessed to be surrounded by, or to surround myself by people who I think are doing life really well.
Sure.
People who are pursuing their goals, people who are good at the things that I'm not good at. And that is true of our staff. That's true of a lot of folks in our community. And really, if you think about it, there's probably something to be learned from anybody that you're around or with. And so that's kind of been our mindset. Actually, one of our core principles at Dat House is that we function off of what's known as asset-based community development. And that starts with a premise that everybody that is in our community, everybody that comes through our doors, no matter who they are, no matter how long they've lived in the community, no matter how much money they do or don't have, no matter how prestigious their job is, everybody has 2 things. They have an asset and they have a need. No matter who you are. And so the goal is to try and seek both in everybody. And in fact, that kind of ties back into our vision for Dat House, is that our vision is that Dat House grows when our greatest strengths intersect with the needs of our community.
Cool.
And so we're trying to constantly bridge those together, tie those together. And so I didn't really answer your question, but I told you I wasn't going to answer it.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
So
Optimism. Very important.
Exactly. Yeah. So if someone were to approach you that is younger, aspiring to do something similar to you, start a non-for-profit, and impact the community in ways that you might have done, what advice would you give that person? How would you push them off into pursuing that goal?
I would say do it. I was telling one of our staff the other day that kind of a funny thing, when we were starting the coffee shop, after we had started it, somebody came to me and said something along the lines of, well, how did you how did you get your ducks in a row? Or I forget exactly what they said, or what'd you do to, get all these ducks in a row? And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. When we opened, I didn't even know we had ducks. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know there were ducks. I didn't know they needed to be in a row. I just knew that this is something that we felt like was the right thing to do. We felt like it was the next step, and so we just did it. And that would be my advice. My advice would be twofold. It would be just start. Just start. But the second thing, and this can be attributed to another book that I read. There's an author. Her name's Liz Gilbert. Her most famous book, I think, is called Eat, Pray, Love. But she wrote another book called Big Magic, and it talks about not making your passions a slave to your income, and how you may make it big, and that's good, but you can't start out with that expectation.
Right.
And so for us, like I said, we started out just doing it, but we, from 07 to 16, it was all volunteer, and we didn't know where it was going to go. And like I said, we still don't know where it's going to go. And we're still not even there yet. I mentioned that we wanted to create, the Lincoln Center is the name of our building. We wanted to make that self-sustainable, and it's not yet. It's getting there. It's getting closer, but I still do a ton of fundraising, and I will probably continue to do a lot of fundraising for the duration of our organization because we want to continue to grow and do more. But the reality is, you just have to start, and it helps to have good partners. It helps to have good mentors. Again, always surrounding yourself with people who you think are doing it better than you.
Sure.
Which we've had lots of folks throughout the years who have mentored us and shared, advice with us. There's actually an organization, a national organization called CCDA, the Christian Community Development Association, and it's made up of groups that are doing things not exactly like us, but in urban areas, merging entrepreneurship and community service together, literally across the country.
Cool.
And so we've been connected to them since the beginning, and so yes, that would be my advice. To restate it simply, just start, and don't make your passion a slave to your income at first.
Yeah. All right, so what we like to do at the end of the show is ask our guests if someone is out there and wanting to utilize your services or get a hold of you, shoot ideas off of you, how can they contact you and how can they learn about your company?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun
being here.
And it's good to continue to meet more folks in the community, and this is what it's all about. So I appreciate you guys. I hope this podcast continues to go.
Me too. Yeah.
And I'll definitely go home and punch that subscribe button.
Thank you.
Several ways. The best way is just to come by the shop.
Okay.
Just come in. Lincoln Lane Coffee is our coffee shop.
Cool.
And we're just over on East Street in Lincoln, right in the smack dab middle of the Bates Hendricks neighborhood. You can email me. You can go on our website, dathouse.org, which I never actually really explained Dat House super well. I realized, but Dat House was the name of our organization because we actually started in a house. We bought a house. Several of us moved in together all at the same time, and we named it Dat House. And then eventually we bought more houses and kind of spread out across the neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And DAT is actually an acronym. It stands for 3 Greek words from the New Testament, doulos, agape, and tapenao, which means servant, love, and humility.
Cool.
But you can read about that and all sorts of other things on dathouse.org, dathouse.org.
We'll link that below for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Or you can shoot me an email, brandon@dathouse.org, but just come by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come try some coffee. Come try the world's best $1
cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Can't pass that up.
And come say, hey, I'm there. Another thing about our staff is that we try to make ourselves really available.
Cool.
And that's changed a lot with the pandemic.
Sure.
But before we would try, we have baristas, of course, but then the rest of us kind of work in open space.
Cool.
So that we like to be very interruptible, so that neighbors can come in and they can kind of know that we're there and around and can talk to us, and I hope that we'll get back to that soon.
Cool.
be sitting there around more often, and I know we will. But yeah, that's me, and that's that.
We look forward to coming in and grabbing that $1 cup of coffee, talking to you guys. That is something that Brendan and I will definitely be doing here soon. So thank you so much for being on this show. Brendan, do you have any closing comments?
No, I just wanted to thank you specifically for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to sit down and just learn more about you and your organization.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian, for assisting in the process.
As always, yeah.
Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Hustle Indie Show.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.